Hello and welcome to Lucky D Stories. Today we have a very special guest, Sharda ji, and she took a trip from New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey, and I am so excited and thrilled to have her on this show. As you know, our episodes are mostly about inspirations from an individual who come to our show, and this episode is no different. And I am thrilled to have Sharda ji at our show. But before I do talk to her, I want to share a little bit about this this podcast. This particular episode is actually dedicated to my mom, and I say this because my mom is very close to a spirituality. She is very close to how to attain realization, and most of the time in my early days when I would talk to her, 9 out of 10 times there would be an argument about I being right over her. And she has been calmly and patiently been able to explain. And she always used to say that there will be a time when you will realize what I'm trying to say. And I think there is no better way for me to start this episode by saying that, Mom, you're right and I'm wrong. And we have Sharda ji, who's actually spent last few decades about realization. In fact, she has written a book, Home at Last. And in this episode, we will try to unfold how she, being a full time employee, a full time household wife, and a mother, and over the period of time, she came to a realization and how she was able to transition that journey, yet keeping that day to day life intact. And we will try to understand that the realization is something that comes, but how do you see that realization? Is there some sort of a light that happens? Is that some sort of a place where you start realizing it, okay, now I feel different? Or is there some sort of a aura that comes on your face where people start thinking, or you just shy away from the negativity? So there's so many things we will unfold in this episode and we'll try to learn. But before I have Sharda ji share about her story and the journey and how she has evolved, and she has done a lot of talk shows as well. So for her, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of her kind for first to say that the podcast is something new for her. So that makes it two of us. We are fairly new in this space. But I also want to thank Sheetal Shastri for having her drove from Princeton, New Jersey, and there is no better way for me to say thank you, thank you, thank you to this universe who have brought both of us together today. So, Shadaji, please, can you share a little bit about your background and what is that one thing that comes to your mind when you think about realization?
Thank you so much, Lucky Ji, for inviting me for this podcast. I'm really happy to be here and like to share something that had taken place several years ago in my life, way into my adult life. An experience of realization, it's called. Some people call it enlightenment or self-realization. The two terms interrelate. Which I was totally unaware until it happened. It was like way into my adult life this happened, not when I was young, still have my two children and my husband, leading a normal life just like everyone else. It suddenly took a turn later on in my life. Sort of like I felt like what I was doing. I was working in a pharmaceutical company as well, being a housewife plus doing everything. I was quite busy normally, But then suddenly I took a turn, and one day I started feeling down the dumps, kind of, very sad inside, and didn't want to do anything. I didn't feel like doing work. I didn't feel like going to do my job, or even in the house, very down, as if you're depressed, but I'm not really depressed, because if depression is there's a doctors that give you pills and this and that. But I didn't tell anybody, actually, because nobody will understand. It's called something unfolds within you. Something changes you when it is time for you. That's how I should say it.
So how, if I may interrupt, so when you say this, right, what age was this? Which age do you think that started this?
Well, way into my adult life, in my 60s, 50s, 60s, between 50 and 60, 50s maybe,
So is that something
40s and 50s, something like that.
something that age?
Yeah.
So is that something you felt, but you knew something is wrong?
Yeah, I knew something is not right because I was feeling very down all the time. It's disinclination of not wanting to do anything, you know.
Is that because you may have experienced that, okay, you came, and if I'm not mistaken, you came when you were 14. So you made your way, you had your
Oh,
job,
school and yeah,
job,
everything.
everything that American dream can offer.
Oh yeah,
So
I
do-
was finished my masters. I finished everything, you
Right.
know, and then I started job in pharmaceuticals, and I was doing work and everything. Coming home, taking care of my kids are grown by then. By the time I had this experience, of course, thank God, they're not little children, you know, they're adults as well. But it's just me and my husband. But still, you know, this is what happened, and I was unable to figure it out. And for so many months, or even took a long time for me to really start thinking what's happening. And I read so many books, you know, is something wrong or something? Then I realized it's nothing like a depression or anything, normal things that happen to normal individuals. It's something, it's time for you to know the truth. They call it the truth, meaning, why are we here in this world? You know, what's the purpose of our human existence? You know, what's going on here? You know, you need to know where is this all going towards
So
to
do you-
find out what.
So does that? Thank you for sharing that. But does that happens to everybody, or it happens to? So here's what I'm thinking. I'm in my 40s, and I used to, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, when I came to United States, I was a student, so I have something to achieve. I'm fighting for that. I got that, and then I wanted a job. I fought for it. I got it. Then I wanted to get married. I did that. Then I wanted to have a home, have that. I wanted kids, have that. So continuously I'm chasing. So from 20s to 40s, I think as a human, you're continuously occupied with chasing something,
Correct.
right? Now, what is next? I question myself. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, because I am trying to find myself to continuously to chase. Now, in this process, do you think there is a possibility where in your case you may or may not have experienced this and you were shut down and you were trying to think like what is next? In your case it was a realization journey that you took, right? In my case I took this journey that I want to continuously chase. So my question is, do you think that both approaches are same in a sense that you're continuously chasing and you're continuously pleasing your mind and going, or realization is an ultimate thing that brings you down to where you want to, so you are outside this cycle of chasing something? Does it make
Exactly.
sense?
Yes, it does make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Exactly. Chasing, doing things, wanting to do things and fulfilling them is one side of the story, you know?
Okay.
And eventually, where does it all end? You know, chasing and wanting and doing things in this life, you know? We don't want to keep doing that. Eventually, the purpose of life is to find out who we really are, what is our real destination, where do we go next, you know? So that's how I thought maybe I can explain. Going towards to find out who you are needs a lot of spiritual work, and we need to, while we're doing all these things, chasing jobs, earning money and doing this, doing that, gaining this, getting a brand new car, blah, 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 all these things are fine, but eventually they don't get you anywhere. So you have to really connect back to something within you that we have forgotten, you know, maybe connect back to your real you, real Lucky Ji or real Sarada Ji. Who are we, you know? A namesake, we're Sarada and you're Lucky, but the thing is, there is a true divine essence. Just like there's divine out there that's directing us to do all these things in this world, There's a divine that's within us as well. So we need to tap into that. We need to realize that. That's why they call it self-realization. Okay? You need to realize what's within us that's really driving us to do all these things. In the true nature is what we have to figure it out, not the one that has developed to enjoy the world and the worldly things that are available to us. And that's not really what it is all about. It's I don't know if you heard the term ego development that we have done throughout our lives. Ego takes over. The consciousness becomes ego, part of the consciousness. And we let that real, true, divine essence within us push back, not letting that divine direct us what to do. So that's the purpose, is to make sure we're not following the ego all the time. We're following the true nature of divine that's embedded within us ever since we're born. It's there.
It's the energy.
That energy or consciousness, you can call it anything. There's so many names, people, soul or whatever, soul, energy or spirit that's within us. We all have
this is
that.
all the same.
All the same
things, but the different names.
Exactly.
I want to.
It's the consciousness, they call it mostly. Spiritual people call it consciousness, energy.
I want to come back to the point. So this is a question actually from my 14-year-old, and he loves English and as a language because he wrote a book and it's on Amazon. So he told me that, can you ask her that what is the difference between awareness and realization? Because, and let me explain it. So I started poking and understand what he's trying to understand. So in my thought process, awareness is something that I am aware what is right and wrong. I am aware that if I do something wrong, there is going to be consequences. If I don't have a food on the table as a family, if I need to support, I will go out and do anything and everything to bring that food to the table as a human instinct, right? So I'm aware, but yet I'm doing it because there is a reason. And I'm pleasing myself in my head, in my mind, I'm doing because of this. I lie because of this. I give a reasoning to anything, but yet I do it. But the realization is, I know this is wrong and I'm not going to do, because I have realized that this is going to take me to something not I want to, because as a divine. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to understand from you, if you have to educate or tell somebody at a 14 or a 10-year-old, what is the difference between awareness and realization?
Everything you just said about awareness, yes, that's the normal life. That's what we all do. We're aware of this. We're aware of the coffee is very hot. I don't want that anymore, or whatever. But the awareness we talk about in spiritual world is a little bit different, because that's being conscious of what we're doing more than what we normally do. Being conscious of things to a point where we do something about it, to improve our focus, to improve our realization of things, in a higher level, as awareness in general will expand as well. Your awareness to things are fine, but your awareness of knowing much more greater extent, which is a better way of. So in other words, deep down, awareness is always expanding. It's always increasing. When you're aware you need to pray God or an idol there, like Krishna or Shiva, whatever. You are aware there's a God there. But your awareness, you're focusing better. Your awareness gets better. You'll realize who is really Krishna, who's really, that God that does a lot of things for us. And that part of that God is within us. And that type of knowledge comes to you.
So do you think that awareness is from outside, the realization is within? Is that right way to?
Realization is something you're realizing that you don't know yet. You haven't realized that you have that divine essence within you that directs all our life's purpose.
So this goes back to my initial thought process I was trying to understand. So does everybody goes through this journey that I was telling about me?
Every one of us will. But
Regardless of
takes
their
time.
regardless of their circumstances, because
Yes.
I will tell you, I was talking, so my mother and my father, two different thought processes. My
Individual.
mother is a hardcore spiritual. My father is very practical, as society would call it. He said, you know what, ask a guy who's working day in and out and working 24 hours a day to bring a food on the table for him or her. It doesn't matter, he's just focusing and he doesn't have time to even think. But you're saying that is not the case. You think that everybody goes through that part. It's just that sometimes you are so occupied in your
In your daily life.
you just don't see, but you do get the sign.
Yes.
And coming back
That's perfectly okay.
it is okay.
Yeah, definitely. You know why? Not everybody is ready to do to get the realization.
Correct. Now my question is, in your case, you were not feeling good about it. You felt
Something happened.
something happened. Is that the normal scenario in which people get, or there are other scenarios through which in your studies you may have experienced that people would feel realization? And I will give you an example. So Sadhguru,
Sadhguru, yes.
So I met him in Yale.
Oh, I see.
Very charismatic, very, how do I say, he has a response to anything and everything in a very articulate way. And in his talks, you might have heard, he was saying that, one day he went to the hill and then he started crying. He had an ecstasy, like he felt it.
Mm-hmm.
For him, that was the way he went in.
Mm-hmm.
For you said that. So I'm just trying to see if somebody goes through. If you ask me personally, this subject is very close to my heart. The reason, as I said, right, initially that,
Right.
my mom and we both discussed, we both have a same seeking, but yet in a different way. She is still old school. She has all religious aspects tied to it. I am trying to untangle the religious aspect and I want to see just one divine, one energy. So I'll give you an example. I was driving today and I saw, my neighbor came to me. He was walking through and he said, where are you going? I said, I'm heading to a podcast. And he said, and he's a Muslim. He's born and raised here. He's Muslim. He said, may Allah succeed you. And, I said, I am so looking forward to it. And he was trying to explain me. Allah means I mean to say God. I said, you don't have to explain me. I have no problem. You call it Allah, you call it anything, because end of the day, for me, it's one power, one energy, one divine.
Exactly.
I want to connect you at a human level. But the moment you explain me, I think your blessing is not going to make it my way, because you were reserved in your blessings in the way you were saying. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yep.
So that's a part I am trying to unfold.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. A lot of people, this realization will happen, first of all, right away, not from books, reading a lot of books, or some religion, or somebody listening to teachers, gurus, whatever. It has to be experienced directly by you. That will come to every one of us in time. It doesn't happen to everyone right away. It could be in this birth, or maybe next life, or next life, or next life. Depends on where one is in their journey of moving forward. It's called evolutionary journey. We all are evolving to step at a time to higher and higher level of beingness. Human being has to grow mentally, physically, and intellectually. It has to absorb certain amount of energy or consciousness, whatever you call, to say, hey, I want to really learn about that, and things like that. So it will happen when it's your time. Something will unfold within you. Something will change you to go into a different direction rather than your normal things that you do every day in your life. That's what I told you about when I said I felt down the dumps one time and that's when I picked up meditation, by the way. I didn't mention that before, but when I was feeling that way, I used to be a Reiki practitioner. Out of curiosity, I learned Reiki, and then later on, that interestingly took me to deep meditation. All of a sudden, when it's supposed to happen to you, divine knows who's ready, who's not. So it will happen only with his knowing. We'll do that. We don't, it's not up to us. Oh, I want to get realized right now, and I'm going to do meditation for a month and I will get realized. No, it's nothing, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it takes a whole journey.
It is a journey. It could
It's
be
not an-
difficult journey. It could be easier journey. Depends also on divine and what you did in your past lives, how much experience you had. Everything counts in a human being.
So it's not a
Something set.
destination. It's
It's-
not a destination. It is more or less like a journey that you go through in an experience.
The process itself.
Process
The
right?
process. Yeah.
You touched about the meditation, and this is a very by the way, this topic is, we can be here for a whole day and we may not end
Oh,
up
it's
to
an
anything.
ocean of a topic.
Ocean
We
of
can
topic.
never
We
cover
cannot.
everything.
So the meditation is something that is, I'm trying to understand. And there are things that, one thing I'm learning in this whole, as you said, right? There is no book, there is nothing, and all these things cannot teach you. It has to come within. My father-in-law once said to me that, in this world, in this universe, you don't need to seek anything from outside. If you want to genuinely know, everything is within.
Exactly.
My father-in-law is
That's
a very,
very true.
yeah, my father-in-law, he's a very unique person in his way. I initially never understood because I was not at that level. And now when his conversation I do, it's a very different level. He told me this, and that actually I took that very seriously. And anything and everything I try to understand, first I start asking myself, and I get an answer. So meditation is something I was trying to, I have a lot of books, after this visit, you will come to our home for a wonderful lunch that my wife is making. You'll love it. She's one of the best cook you'll ever find. I started reading about meditation and I was not getting an answer. They were all technical and stuff like that. I started seeking within. You know what I found my response to the meditation? Is a focus. Now, the focus does not mean you're sitting here and focusing. Focus means if I am right now, if my mind is not completely focused with you, I'm not meditating, right? I am sitting here talking to you on this subject. For me, this is a meditation.
Yeah,
How I look at it.
How conscious you are.
How conscious you are. My wife is at home. She's making a wonderful lunch. She's 100% focused.
Oh yeah,
right?
we're meditating all the time.
All the time.
Actually.
Right. So I feel like the meditation, the peace, everything is within. And I started asking myself, so what is the difference between meditation and peace? And the response I got, and I could be wrong, but I am somehow manifesting in my own little mind, the way I see peace, I tell my son, I said, if your mind is not at peace, you cannot study. If my mind is not at peace, I cannot drive carefully. If my mind is not at peace, I cannot read a book. If my mind is not at peace, I cannot do my work. I cannot do anything if my mind is not at a peace. But yet, when we ask people or anybody, including myself, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people, what is your ultimate goal? Oh, my ultimate goal is a peace. How can my ultimate goal be a peace when it's a prereq to anything and everything we need to do? Right?
Yeah.
So what is an ultimate goal? Is this a realization? I'm asking you.
Ultimate goal is, through attaining peace, it will take you to the ultimate goal. See, there's a big difference. Like, that's why meditation is different, because what you're doing in meditation is not just focusing. Also, you pick one, the way I used to do is one-pointed focus. You pick something, an idol or something, to focus your attention on. So your thoughts, you know how your mind always gives hundreds and millions of thoughts all the time. Oh yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom, or I have to go to the school to pick up my kid, or this, that. All the distractions will be gone when you're focusing on something, one particular point. So you do that continuously, and actually it's not forcing yourself, it's a focus without a force. Meditation is called focusing on something without force. It will take it itself to the destination. It will take you to the calmness and that peace, what you just called. Peace is nothing but focusing on that one thing you need to do or something without distractions telling you otherwise, without your mind telling you, no, don't do that, that's not good, or go to your friend first, or, eat your dinner first. All these things your mind will not tell you. It will tell you exactly what you need to do. Focus on that point, focus on that light or something. So that's better because it will do all the work for you, and so that the peace you're talking will come to you. That peace will entail you to read a book and understand perfectly, or cooking, do that perfectly. Everything becomes really good. Endpoint is good.
And I agree
with
to
that peace.
I agree. And I'll share a story. So I was reading of Wall Street. There was an article came in China. So they did an experiment on this, that they had this kindergartner students. They had two classes, same subject. For first class for kindergartner, they made kids to meditate.
Wow.
For 15 minutes. And there was another class, they didn't let them meditate and they just jumped to the subject. The outcome of the response was 100% on this meditation. And they actually in the school implemented that every time when the kids come to the class,
they have to meditate.
They meditate for 15 minutes.
Wow.
Now here's the thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And I'm sure you know this, right? In America, you have heard the ADSD, right? Attention Deficit Disorder, right?
Yes,
it's
yes.
very common in this country. I'm sure other countries too, but here at least people acknowledge it, right? and there are millions of kids who fall into that spectrum. And you probably know the way the process goes is like you are identified, the teacher evaluates, the governments acknowledge it, and it comes into a point where the medication is given to that kid for an attention deficit disorder.
Yes.
And the kid is able to focus, which means dopamine and all the things releases from chemically, artificially. And the reasoning why they give this, that it is very good because your kids, when they fall into that spectrum, in the certain time frame, this until you go to college, if you can manage this, then naturally your body will start adapting to that focus.
Right.
But there are a lot of side effects. But do you think that if somebody, the parents who are listening today, if their kid is going through this, do you think that how do you bring that a 10 or a 15-year-old kid to come to that meditation so they don't have to go chemically with this kind of a medicine?
That would be a little bit difficult initially, but with practice, I see a lot of now mothers taking their small children to meditation or quietude, place time to sit there and focus, and how to sit there quietly, and one at a time they learn to focus and to learn to close your eyes and to just sit there still. That itself is good enough for them to reach that point of the silence, where it's silence. So then they would like it and they will implement that eventually. And that itself will lead them to a better and better, the kids' way of thinking and way of doing things will change eventually. So meditation does wonders to anyone,
I will be honest.
Even children can start early. That's what I'm saying.
I try to sit and I can. My thoughts keeps coming. As you said, right? So I was reading a book on thoughts. You were telling about thousands of thoughts, right?
Oh, yeah.
There are 60,000 thoughts, which I read, that every human have generated single day. 60,000.
Oh, I believe it.
And that the book says that out of 60,000 thoughts, there are 95% of our thoughts are fearful thoughts. For any human.
Right.
As long as you're breathing, a 1-year-old and to 100-year-old. And out of that 95%, there is only 1% of and 99% of our thoughts are recycling the same thoughts.
Yep.
We are rehashing the same thoughts. There's only 1% of our thought which comes to our mind. We just let it go. We don't even do anything with that.
Right. Half of them we don't.
You don't, right? and that to that subject, other day, my son, my older one, every time I pick him up from the school, I give him a wisdom shots. I have some story to share. I do some stuff, wisdom. And he said, last week he said, Dad, today I am going to give you a wisdom shot. I said, go on. He said, which I was very amazed. He said, the day you are born, you are only born with two fears. One is the fear of darkness, and the one is the fear of falling.
Falling down.
Those are naturally born fear that humans are born with. Any other fear is developed over the period of time through the five senses of elements, like touch, feel, hear.
Right.
You don't know that this water is hot or not unless you feel it.
Correct.
Or somebody tells you.
Correct.
So there's only two fears. The reason I brought this up is very interesting, and I'm thinking, so do you think that everything is in our control after you're born, or do you think there is a control that we get scared and the realization happens, and that is the only, because most of the time people live their life and they go and they don't even know that they have realized, or they are even aware of that realization, or it's coming their way.
Right. Before you're saying what's the difference between awareness and something else, right?
And then if I talk it from my father's point of view, he will say, so what? I lived, I went.
That's why.
So what is my point is?
Exactly. Well, let me just say one thing. That's the reason there are millions of lives we lead. We come back again and again and again in this body, right?
Yeah.
In this earthly living, I call this, right? Once we reduce the fears, reduce this, reduce that. Eventual purpose is to really eliminate all that and get to realization. Then, like I said before, instead of egoic way of living, you will reduce, if you focus mostly on your true nature of beingness that's within every one of the human beings. Everyone carries that, because divine is split into millions of himself, and that's within us, and that is directing your life, actually, what you should do. Okay, this one has to learn to meditate at this certain point, or this one will go to university and teach, or this one will work hard and he'll make money and give it to donation for the poor people. All these things, this type of thoughts will come if you focus really within you towards that divine essence. Inwards. Not outside.
Outside. You don't realize this. We've been almost 35 to 40 minutes in this, and I feel like we just started.
Yeah.
It's just scratched. But we can go on this subject forever. But I really want to talk about your book.
Okay.
And when I first saw this book, right, when I see The Home at Last, the way I interpret it, and you can tell why you picked this word, the way I interpret that you came to United States when you were 14. Now you're in your 70s.
Right.
By the way, you don't look like 70s.
Thank you.
And I think that is you're
because
joyful from within.
Yeah, no, joyful also. Your inner energies, vibrational energy changes. Because when you self-realize and connect back to divine essence, the totality of that, what we call God's expansiveness, or God's consciousness, whatever you want to call it, you will know you are also part of Him. You will realize that.
Yes.
And that becomes, actually, that's where we come from to begin with, into this physical called body. Only humans are capable of realizing who and where you came from. Other beings like rats, animals, trees, nature, they don't have that capacity. Only humans are highly evolved beings. Their they have a tremendous amount of energy to realize where their original contact is from. The source that they come from. Yeah. So
when I read this, let me give a first thought here. When I read The Home at Last, the way I'm connecting this dot is that you came to United States when you were 14. Now you're in your 70s, and you feel like you're living in the West and you're thinking about East. The way I see this is like, home at last means you're going back to connect to the roots. Is that how I see or is that something else that you would like to call out, the subject, how you picked the subject? Very interesting subject.
Yeah, I picked that title because of once I had gone through the 9 or 10 years of that experience or the process of me tapping into that divine essence, the source we all come from, the connection comes only when you do certain spiritual practices with an intent you want to reach the source. It's like I want to reach my parents. I want to go home to my parents' home. I'm lost here type of thing happens, you know. You're lost because you don't know where your home is or where you come from. Simply put. So that's how you feel until you connect back, until you realize there is this divine essence within you that is taking you and reconnects you back to the source you come from. That means the soul.
So that home is the source.
The home is your source.
Source.
Divine is your source, actually.
And
you come from them. You come from that. It's like that primordial energy. When you're a baby, you have that energy within you, you know, that comes from divine, right? The baby is live and it's ready to grow big and occupy the physical body, right? So eventually he grows up and he realizes, okay, this is not my true nature. I have to see where I come from originally. And one time or other, people will start thinking like that, even humans. But it takes a while for them to connect back to the divine, so that's why we do all this meditation and all these spiritual practices. Go to churches, go to temples and pray. Devotion is the main thing. Takes you higher and higher level of knowingness, or eventually. So I titled it, Once I Realized. In my process of 10 years of practice of meditation, I finally reached that perfect, consciousness where I could feel nothingness. It is total oneness of existence. It is what you call that perfect scenario where you feel part of that. I don't know how else to explain. You have to read my book. It feels like you're part of that energy, that consciousness. It's like a river joining an ocean. You don't have any difference there. Its totality is the ocean, right? You're just part of that ocean. That's how you feel.
So it's oneness.
Oneness.
Because I'm from a Sikh family. Sikhism, the first word is Ekomkar. Ekomkar means one.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Nothing else.
And there is I was listening to somebody and he brought a very good point on that oneness. And by the way, I've been reading Osho's book, Ekomkar, True Name, One God. I don't think there is anybody who has explained the way he has explained the one word. He wrote a whole book. I have only finished in 4 years. I've only finished like 10 pages.
Wow.
Because I don't have an ability to go forward without realizing. I want to realize.
First.
I don't want to
before you go.
Yes,
yeah,
further.
I understand.
But there is an interesting point that one person brought up. And I don't remember who said it. He said that when we speak about oneness, there is no other than just one. There is no good or bad. There is just one.
There's only one God.
One. There is no good, bad. There is no evil. There is nothing. Everything is one. Oneness. And then I started reading a book on Adi Yogi. I might have referred you in the back, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable book. I think that was an eye-opener for me. So, and I think we should wrap this up because it's been a long. I think I'm getting a sign from the cameraman.
Oh. Okay.
No, but I wanna. So I was reading a book on Adi Yoga. There is a very beautiful thing that speaks about yoga. Yoga in the Sanskrit, like yoga means you're connecting your mind and body and soul, right, together, aligning, right?
Correct.
That's an actual true meaning, not just the stretching. Of course, stretching is a part of it that the circulation happens.
It's
more, but that the yoga is just the one part of it. There is a Shunya, there is a Suksham, and the last is to ultimate is a Shiva. Now, not the Shiva Lord, because Shiva in the Sanskrit, Shi means no, Va means being. Being nothing is the beginning of everything.
Exactly.
And I think we are summing it up well.
What we call God really is not a figure. It's not an idol. It's nothing.
Yes.
It's a nothingness.
Yeah.
A totality is a nothing. Expansive. There's no ending. There's no beginning. It is all one. That created all of us.
Yes, so that no being is the beginning of everything.
Exactly.
And I think and I was doing
We
some.
call it primordial energy. No,
What do you call it?
primordial.
Primordial. Okay,
Primordial
good.
energy.
And I was also doing some research on the no being. So they say that zero was invented by India, right? And Aryabhat was the mastermind who in an Nalanda University did that, right? During that time, and I was reading some grays. Like I'm also trying to do so much thing. I'm confused, man.
Yeah.
I'm very confused. And they said that in that time frame, the stars and the solar system was so much aligned that the energy and the world was progressing in the creativity and all the new things. And the zero was created mathematically to solve the mathematical thing. But more than that, the zero was also meant to say nothing. When you start from nothing is when you achieve everything. So there is also an underlying thing from a spiritual standpoint what zero means.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think so.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But this was
But
so-
but it's what people think is that self-realization, enlightenment is well, not for me. I like it the way I am and stuff.
My father.
But, yeah. The purpose of our existence is to find out where you really come from. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's just continuous repetition of birth, death, coming back again, as in the physical body. You will end once you realize and you connect back. There's no more coming back, by the
There's
way.
no more coming
There's no more coming back, and repetitions are gone.
So
You don't have to enforce that kind of, comings and goings any longer. It stops.
and I think
Everything stops.
Yes, and I will end with this topic where I said the ultimate goal in
Is
this
to-
world is not a peace because that's Sapritic. I think the ultimate goal in this world is the moksha,
Right.
coming and going.
Liberation.
Liberation.
Correct.
And I think
Correct.
we'll end up with this note. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For having coming
Like
from
I said,
Princeton
it's a topic of like a big ocean of a topic. We
Big
can't
one.
cover everything
Everything
in
in
one
one.
session.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, but
I
I
hope I was
want to
clear.
thank you for every little thing that you made your trip for 2 hours.
it's
But
okay.
I want to say this. My mom every Saturday she will call me. When is your podcast coming? When is your podcast coming? I am so happy that I may
Please
not.
give my book to
I
your
am
mother.
going to give her, but a lot of my friends say, "How many subscribers do you have?" I said, "I have my mom. She doesn't subscribe. She doesn't go, but she will ask me, when is your podcast coming? When is your podcast coming?" And today's subject, I told her, I said, I'm on a realization subject. She's good. And half of the time she doesn't understand English. So she will listen to me. She's my best. It doesn't matter. Whoever listen, she will make sure that she will say, I listened for 10 minutes, then I lost because I could not understand. Can you explain me what you spoke? So this will be a topic for me with
To
her
talk
for
to her.
almost for an hour tomorrow.
That's good.
So-
I'm glad I could be
But
of some
thank
help.
you so much.
You're welcome.
We always end up with this one thing that we try to ask our guests. We are fairly new, and I want to make sure that we enforce ourselves to cater to new things and things we can enhance from
Yeah,
our.
right.
What is one thing of an advice you would give us that we could make it as a better environment and a better place so that we can contribute even more better than what we are doing today?
Maybe it depends on the topics also, what topics you want to emphasize in your podcast. If you're bringing any kind of a spiritual topics like the one we just did today, best thing is to emphasize every human should do certain amount of spiritual practice, such an amount of spiritual way of thinking. Go to God, go to temple, it doesn't matter, but devotion is the first step. You have to be devoted. And your intent should be always, hey, I'm thankful for this house, for the food that we have. We have a comfortable life, no diseases, no problems. Therefore, there must be a divine existence that are taking care of all of us indirectly, actually, which is inside of you. So maybe you should emphasize, everybody should, rather than saying, oh, I'm fine and dandy, I have a big car and a home, I don't have to do anything. No, not like that. But he should always thank God. Thank divine that's overseeing our existence in this earthly life,
Very good.
in this life.
I don't think there would have been a better way to end this.
Yeah.
Can you pass your energy to me?
Of
I'm going to take this and I'm going to pass it on to my family.
Thank you.
For everything.
Thank you.
God bless you. So this is our episode ending here today. I hope you get to like this subject, realization, and if you haven't had a chance to find out, we'll have it in our link below. You can go to Amazon and You can go to Amazon and you can look out for this book.
Yeah, under my name.
Under the name Sarda. And how do you?
Chiruvolu.
Okay.
But actually, it can go on the Amazon. Say home at last.
Yes.
My book will pop up.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.